guys, welcome back to Unintentionally Frenchified. I am very excited to do this video today. I feel like it's a video that's completely for you, the viewers, the subscribers to the Unintentionally Frenchified family. I did a Q&A already, one of them, that you can find the link below in the description, when I had gotten to 5,000 subscribers on the channel. And now that we've passed 10,000, I feel like it's a perfect opportunity to do it again. So I asked on Instagram in a post and in some stories if anyone had any questions, and I got a lot of responses back. So I'm going to try to get through as many questions as I can in around 10 minutes, since that's about the general length of my videos. If you don't feel like I went into detail enough on a question, or you have like some follow-up, don't hesitate to put it in the comments below. But otherwise, I'm really just going to try to zip through as many as I can. So I'm not going to waste any more time. I'll get right to it, but obviously a huge thank you to everyone out there who's watching the videos, who subscribed to the channel, who supported the channel and myself from the beginning. It's been so much fun to create content here, and you know, I'm just hoping that it only goes farther. All right, c'est parti. The French have a reputation, but not just men, but women too, for being pretty arrogant compared to the rest of the world, obviously, generally speaking. I grew up in the Midwest. I would say that they are more arrogant than what I knew growing up, but I wouldn't say it's out of control. I know this is a huge stereotype, but it's not like something that I see in every single man that I meet or that I interact with, that there's like a ton of arrogance. But, you know, French do tend to be pretty proud of themselves and of being French. Yes, definitely. I grew up with 4 sisters and a brother, so a pretty big family, very blended, but big family, and I would love for Eleanor to have siblings too someday. Not anytime soon, though. There are a lot of forums dedicated to English speakers trying to find a job in France. I would really go for those forums if you can. There are a lot of teaching jobs that only require that you speak English, and I'd also say international companies, like very big companies that have a culture of speaking English at work all the time, even in France. That would be a great place to go to. The best thing about having a French partner is definitely the everyday culture. I just feel like I learn on a daily basis so much about history and about, you know, what's going on in the arts and what's going on in everyday and worldwide. I think it just opened me up a lot to the rest of the world, that even when I was living abroad but wasn't with a French guy, I feel like that's been a good thing. And then the worst thing for me is the debates. I mean, endless debating, just about every subject, and always needing to have an opinion. And I'm just sometimes like, oh, no, not another debate, please. I think one of the big habits for me is a food thing that I've noticed is I really like eating applesauce and yogurt for dessert. And that is not something that we would ever eat for dessert in the US. Yogurt was strictly breakfast where I grew up, and applesauce could be a side dish depending, but for the most part, it was like maybe a snack, but it was definitely not considered dessert. And now when I want, you know, applesauce or yogurt for dessert, I'm like, wow, I'm very French. If I was gonna live anywhere else in France, right now, I think I would go towards Montpellier. Robin's family, actually, I'm here right now. I don't know if you guys can see with the light, but here, I'll give you a little show, get you closer so you can see. You get a good view out there of set. Yeah, so this is where I'm at right now, actually. And set is where Robin's family's from. And I would love to be, maybe not directly in set, but I don't know, somewhere in like close by Montpellier, close to the beach, a little bit smaller, you know, a lot smaller than Paris. It'd be nice. When I was a student in France, I was working, so I did a lot of babysitting. They loved anyone who could speak English to their kids and speaks French, so you could kind of understand what they needed. I had no problem getting babysitting jobs, so I did that as I was a student. It's pretty difficult to find an apartment as a student, even when you're a French student and you have your parents and your French parents who pay French taxes as your garant. It's pretty hard to find because obviously the owners of the apartment want to have the most reliable person in their apartment renting, so that they're sure that they're going to get a rent every month, because you have to remember in France, renters are very protected. So it's not impossible, but you need to be very, very motivated and patient, and maybe lower standards sometimes. I would love to move back to the USA. I don't think permanently. We love France. I've been here now for 10 years in October. I'm very attached to France, and obviously my husband is too. But we would love our kids to have a bit of a North America upbringing too. So that could be the US for sure. It could be Canada. I guess we'll have to see, but I would really love for them to have a North American influence and be closer to my family for a bit of time. This one's really hard to answer quickly, so I actually did a video on it, so I'm putting the link below because fashion in Paris, there's a lot of do's and don'ts, and watch the video and you'll get all the advice I can give. Maternity and paternity leave in France is great when you compare it to the US. It's a little less great, I guess, when you compare it to the rest of Europe, like Northern Europe especially. If it's your first or second child and you're not having twins, then you get a total of 16 weeks. And normally in France, you take 6 weeks before the birth and you get 10 weeks after. But of course, you can have added things. For example, the company that I work for, one of the benefits is we get an extra month on top of that. So it depends, and if you have twins, then it goes up. If you're having triplets, it goes up. If it's your third or fourth or fifth child, then the amount of time goes up. So it's very dependent on your situation. And then paternity leave, if I remember correctly, it's 11 days in France, which is really not a lot. And at our company right now, it's been up to 2 months. But again, that's very specific to the company you work with. But I think the minimum is 11 days for paternity. I wouldn't say that the flirting ever was an issue, and I never really got too upset about that. I would say one thing that I had to get used to is that Frenchmen tend to stay friends with their exes, which is great because in some ways you're like, oh, well, that means that even though they didn't work out together, he must have, been kind or sweet or treated her right, that she still wants to be friends. There's a positive side. But at the beginning, I found it a little bit difficult because you're not yet really secure in your own relationship with this person. So then you throw in the mix of exes and it makes you feel, it was me feeling really insecure. But I mean, now that we've been together for 7 years and I feel very secure, I've never seen that, I guess, as a problem. Definitely the unfriendliness. And I know that this is such a stereotype, but I really come from a stereotypical America, Midwest. People smile, they're friendly, you get things by being polite and kind. That is not the case in France, and it's not just Paris, it's anywhere in France. Like, yes, there will be people that are more kind than in other places, but you don't necessarily get what you want by being sweet and nice and asking politely in France. And you really have to push, and you have to be stubborn, and you can't take no for an answer, and that's not part of my personality, nor at all what it's like where I grew up. So that was probably the biggest culture shock, and still is for me. I mean, I still come home sometimes like with a tear in my eye, telling Robin that I had a very hard time at the bank, and he's like, I would say raising a baby in small space, my biggest tip would be there is so many things that people sell you that you don't need, but there's also so many things that they want to sell you that make life easier but aren't necessary. I would ask friends, I would ask your parents, I would ask your colleagues, anyone who's already had kids, what were the top 3 things they're so glad they had? And what are the top 3 things they were like, I never should have bought that, it wasn't necessary? And narrow down the things that you need. Because when you have a small space, you don't have a lot of extra room to put stuff that you don't use on a regular basis or isn't really bringing an added extra value to your life and the baby's life. So I would just say you've got to go with less is more. And I would start out, don't buy it, and then see if you need it moving forward. I met Robin thanks to his brother. So his middle brother, Jules, and I were interns at work, and we just got along well. So he invited me out with some of his friends one night, and when I went there, his brother Robin was there, and then now here we are 7 years later. Poor Jules, he had no idea what he was getting himself into. My favorite thing about France is the fact that they work to live and they don't live to work. I love that they're all about enjoying life, working hard, and then taking time to enjoy. And honestly, what I don't like about France is the administration and customer service, the fact that I'm constantly having to battle somebody to get something that I need, and I'm constantly being told no, and then I have to really push for it, and it's so not a part of my personality or how I grew up, so it's still one of those things where I don't like it. Honestly, what I would say about baby weight is try your best not to obsess over it. Really try during your pregnancy to eat as healthy as you can and stay as active and fit as you're able to, obviously. And once you give birth to the baby, just give yourself 3 months to concentrate only on that baby. That weight will gradually come off. A lot of it has to do with the baby. And then what doesn't come off at the end and you really have to work for it, you'll work for it after you spend some time with the baby. I would honestly say do not pressure yourself so much. There's so much your body's doing now. So try to forget about the weight, keep yourself as healthy and as fit as you can during the pregnancy, and it'll be okay. French politics actually does interest me a lot. My husband is very involved in French politics and he follows it regularly and we regularly discuss it. And so yeah, I definitely pay attention, and even if I can't vote yet, hoping to hear about my nationality soon. I do keep myself pretty updated on what's going on. Really different. I started off on a working visa because I was part of the TAPIF program, so I was teaching English for a year. I then had like 3 or 4 years of student visas as I was doing my master's, and then I was also interning because I had a 1.5 years worth of internships with my master's program. And then from there, I moved on to a visa that was a working visa sponsored by the first company that I started working for. And I've always just been on that working visa. So I've actually never been on a visa that was, say, a PAX or linked to the person that I was with. It is always, at the end of the day, it was either student or working. Post-COVID in France hasn't been that different in terms of the sweats. People are not wearing sweats anymore. I saw it once and never again. It hasn't been my main focus, but I love doing videos about being a mom in France as well, and I love creating the content, and it seems like a lot of people enjoy it, so I definitely will be doing more. Alright guys, that's all the questions that I had time for. I'm sorry I did not get through all of them, so thank you so much for all of your questions. I hope you got to learn a little bit more about me and who's behind the channel, and I will see everybody next week. Bisous!